Welcome to the Impact on the Ground podcast series. I'm Tiia Sammalahti, CEO of whatimpact.com. In this podcast series, we'll dig deeper into what it takes to make an impactful change in our society. I'll give a voice to charities, social enterprises, companies, grant makers, individuals, and government officials who all have one thing in common. They are keen to make a difference. We dive into practical solutions and observe the dynamics of those who have resources to give and those working with the beneficiaries on the ground. Let's start making an impact together. Hello again from Impact on the Ground. Today we have a special guest, Angel Cassin from Together Estranged charity. Welcome, Angel.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to chat this through.
Yeah. So this is an interesting topic, estrangement, and we want to kind of clarify what that actually means and what does it where does it actually come from, the decisions within people that they choose maybe not to be involved with their family members, their relatives, or leave a group of close friends or something, and why that happens, also kind of how it then actually affects on person and what kind of support they might be needing. So Angel, could you shed a light to this concept, estrangement, a little bit?
Sure, no problem. Thanks so much for having us on. It's great. So look, I'm the director of a charity called Together Estranged. It was founded in 2020. And we support adult estranged children. What does that mean? Okay, so estrangement is essentially a process of emotional or physical distancing from a familial relationship that once had emotional and physical closeness. It can be a process and it is a spectrum. It is not black and white. So it's not that you either have absolutely no contact whatsoever or you have a wonderful, fabulous functioning relationship. It often doesn't happen overnight, although for some of our members and some parts of the community, it can happen overnight depending on the circumstances. Some of the reasons for estrangement include non-acceptance, so that could be around sexuality or identity. It could also be around abuse, any kind of abuse, so verbal, sexual. And then you also find a lot of our community have challenges around emotional abuse and family values differences, which materialize in emotional or verbal abuse, and that can last into adulthood. We generally support adults, we don't generally provide supports to under 18s. But that doesn't then mean that we only provide support for a certain group or cohort. We see estrangement impacting people throughout their entire life course. And also you have to understand that maybe some people, actually a lot of our community members, don't choose to become estranged or are not estranged from parents or other family members until later in their life. Some of the challenges that we see people face are isolation and stigma. So you can be incredibly isolated if you go against the social norm, okay? So family unit is often seen as the crux of our society. It's what a lot of people strive towards, a lot of people value, look at even systems of taxation and everything set up around the family unit being intact. So you find a lot of people suffer with, I suppose, struggling with the language around estrangement. How do I describe what has happened to me or what I have decided to do? And then how do I describe or tell people that I care for what I'm going through? And you often find in that vacuum is a lot of challenge and isolation, and the stigma around it is incredibly impactful. Some of the practical challenges people face, if you think of your family network and the catch-all sort of safety net they provide, the joy they may provide, the closeness and all those social things that sit around a family, they also support you in your life. So being confident and striving towards success in whatever field that you want to be in and whatever you want to work in, creating other healthy relationships as an adult, getting employment, getting education, seeing those things through, working through those things and succeeding and realizing success in those fields. And then you also have things like legal and protective orders that some people feel they need to put in place to protect themselves. And and fair access to legal supports. So it's kind of varied, but if you think of what your family does for you, if you're in a functional, supportive family, it's varied as well. So it's no wonder that if you have one or more contacts severed, or if you're estranged from one or more relationships in your family, there is a trickle down domino effect of all the things social and practical and emotional that you're impacted as an estranged person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That seems, and sounds very overwhelming from an individual point of view, for sure. You probably don't even realize kind of how much support you get from different family members, and if you kind of cut yourself out from the scenario, that must be very lonely. If we think about like a let's say work point of view, you deal with adult beneficiaries mainly who are either maybe university studies or they are working somewhere. So what kind of challenges their own decision to estrange from their, let's say, close ones to bring to the workplace?
Yeah. And just to clarify, some of our community members, yeah, they definitely have made that decision. Some have not. Some have become estranged from family members due to that family member or the extended family deciding that they no longer have a place in the family unit for all kinds of reasons, as I mentioned, around non-acceptance. So the reasons can be varied, and therefore the challenges as a result can be varied. But some of the things we see, as I said, are around social cohesion. So feeling isolated from your peers, having the ability to connect and communicate and create deep and meaningful connection. So if you have a challenge around your family setup and you don't have the normal supports to bring you through into new transitions, like if you're moving from home to school, as in university, and then on to the workplace, you don't have the usual supports of a family. It can be really hard to make those transitions. So actually getting into the workplace, and then also things like funding to allow you to take up training, courses, education to actually move you into an industry that you want to be in. Let's say you've managed that and you're in those industries and you're in a job. Some of the challenges people face are the mental health weight or burden of processing this experience, because while estrangement means you have no longer got a fully functioning social and physical relationship with your family member, it's still a living thing. It's a living grief, as a lot of people would describe it. So you as an individual are holding that in the workplace, and because of the social stigma around it, you often have an increased chance or instance of mental health illness or mental illness. And that means that you are carrying that as a disadvantage in some cases in your workplace, and not being able to openly discuss that can be a real challenge. So things around having a good AEP or a good wellness program within your workplace that you can access to process the experience of living through estrangement is critical. If you look at some of the other practical things, and these are the things that people don't often think about, access to information. So access to paperwork and information about you. So if you're moving into university process, you're applying for things, if you're moving into a workplace, say you're moving city and then you're trying to find a place to live, having access to your own personal paperwork. If you didn't have that, if you had to leave your home in a I guess in a rush, or if you had to leave overnight, or if you just left, the relationship decrease over time, but then you cannot contact those people again to get that information. There's a whole legal process or a bureaucratic process to get those paperworks again. So it's even those practical steps if you think about it, but primarily it's around that social cohesion. If you can't develop deeper and meaningful authentic connections with your co-workers and your friends as an adult, it can be hugely stunting.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's something that you wouldn't even think of, getting access to your own paperwork. That's for sure. And even if you have, family in place, it seems to be sometimes hard to find those documents. So, and if you don't have access, that must be a struggle. So, in terms of kind of creating this kind of all-inclusive workplace, then, and supporting people in this kind of situation, what can, let's say, like in companies, the human resources department, or what kind of practices that can they create to kind of alleviate these challenges?
Definitely having an openness around an open culture, an openness around getting to know employees. Now, not every employee wants to share the private details of their family setup. that's totally fine. But if the company has an openness to understanding that people have diverse backgrounds and therefore diverse needs that sit outside of the standard working requirements, that's the first step. Then having a decent EAP or a well-being program that people can access anonymously, and that EAP or the access to a service like external to the company, for example, a therapy service, is inclusive itself. So that it offers services that are holistic, that have not just got not just a family systems theory at the root of their practice. So if you, as we have heard from our members, have accessed therapies where a therapist has been trained in a very particular way, and that means that they value the family unit and reconciliation above all else. That can be incredibly re-traumatizing for individuals who've already had to make a really challenging decision, or a decision has been made for them. So again, making sure that the vetting of the services and supports that workplaces provide are inclusive and, you know, have a certain level of additional training around those. And then also providing for a little bit of flexibility when people are engaging with HR and financials. So if you are required to provide paperwork, if you are required to provide background information, that there is an understanding that and a flexibility around how that information is provided, and that you do that with a human touch. And then I would also say, this is sort of a more practical thing, but often workplaces, especially larger workplaces or corporations, celebrate and acknowledge holiday season. Okay, beautiful time for bringing people together, right? If you do not have a standard or traditional family system or access to those relationships, this is an incredibly challenging and really lonely time for individuals who are estranged. So it's having an awareness that holiday times are not a happy time for everybody. Yeah. And so therefore, providing social events that are inclusive and allow for connection with your peers within the workplace, really great step. But then also acknowledging things like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, and other religious holidays are often a time where people need additional support and a little bit of tact around how they're acknowledged and celebrated within a workplace.
Yeah, that must be tough, these holiday periods for sure. What about you talked about the reasons, kind of, there are so many reasons for estrangement, and if that wasn't your own choice, like you said, it's very, of course, traumatizing that you've been so-called kicked out of your own life, and you are kind of alone. Why does this happen? And, kind of what are the reasons and groups of people, and what could directly be the kind of the solutions that like a business could offer to kind of help, not to replace at all, because you cannot replace a family, but kind of offer that kind of a community, sense of community in the workplace. A couple of examples.
So I think as I mentioned at the beginning, some of the reasons for estrangement include non-acceptance. So again, if an individual hasn't got the traditional family support because of their identity in terms of sexuality or otherwise, it's really important that a workplace makes an intentional effort. And you'll see this more and more and more with especially larger companies. How do they visibly demonstrate inclusiveness and diversity, not only in how they celebrate people and how they offer social exchanges and engagements, which are all really positive and create, a social opportunity for people who are otherwise isolated, but it's also about meaningful diversity and inclusion, and making sure that there's mechanisms for people who have diverse experiences, including those who don't have traditional family setups, to be included in decision making around HR programs. I suppose diversity at the decision table is not a new concept,
Yes.
I think this is just maybe another dimension, not to assume everybody would like this because, it's a family fun day and it's this kind of celebration and everybody wants to celebrate their family or everybody loves the holidays. It's just a level of tact. And the only way that you can do that is if you create an openness to having heard people's lived experiences within your organization. And then, as I said, there's other reasons for estrangement, which include and are not limited to, different kinds of abuse. That is more challenging for a workplace because it's not necessarily ever something that an individual will reveal, but it is important to be aware of. And I think primarily the best way that you can support employees who have a variety of challenging backgrounds in this way is to provide a comprehensive mental health support wellness program. Now, I think, as I've mentioned before, if you do your research and you provide an outside service provider that is inclusive, that understands family estrangement and other challenges that are not just I suppose what you would say run of the mill, but that's probably too blasé. That's important because that shows a level of awareness and understanding that, you know, people have challenges that aren't the standard, and you as an organization have considered that. But socializing is important. And I think for people who don't have family systems or setups at home, certainly need to feel closeness to the team. So having genuine or making genuine efforts to bring people together in a cohesive way. Social engagements are lovely, but again, conscious of financials. So, you know, removing any financial barriers to engaging with peers is really important. But in terms of programming, I would certainly just say primarily it's about offering a health and mental wellness program that people can access.
Yeah. So you mentioned about your charity that you are providing like insight and material. You don't necessarily offer like a one-on-one therapies or such. So how can companies kind of partner with you and maybe get like support to their HR practices from you? Because this is like you said, this is like one aspect of things, and people don't know about it that much.
So our charity or nonprofit, it really supports adult estranged children, as I mentioned. The way that we do that is through 3 pillars: supporting them, empowering them, and then working to destigmatize estrangement within society, so it's easier for individuals who have this experience to live in the world. So at the moment, we've had through the 4 years of our existence a couple of different corporate sponsorships. Primary one of those is with BetterHelp Therapies, and they have sponsored us for 3 years in a row now. What we would really like to do is continue to expand our partnership with individual organizations who want to fund one-to-one therapies. We won't provide one-to-one therapies, but we would really like to outsource targeted one-to-one therapies that our community members really need. When we did our community needs assessment, it was our priority number 1. People need one-to-one therapies. We can provide it, but we want to fund it. And so we've accessed different grants for specific targeted therapies and support groups. And we've also had corporate sponsorship. Those are the 2 ways: grants to fund one-to-one therapies that we would outsource to a specialist service. And then second is corporate sponsorship of specific services in this mental health space. So things like mindfulness apps, specific support courses that would allow for people to move beyond the experience. And that moves me into the next piece, which is around empowerment. How do we encourage people to positively live even through this experience and moving beyond this experience? Currently, what we do is we have a fantastic social media team, small but mighty, I will say, and they provide incredible resources in the form of blogs, articles, research pieces, and advice column. And we would really love to be able to expand that and do more primary research and collaborative research so that we can provide our members with the best resources and signposting. At the moment, one of our big projects, which we'd really like to see through in the coming year, is a comprehensive database of estrangement-related resources. That includes member-verified therapists, it includes books, articles, podcasts, things you can go to a one-stop shop to search for and really, really find what you need at whatever stage you're at without feeling overwhelmed. So we're a small, mighty team, but we're working on it. We're gathering resources, but we really need to be able to translate the resources that we find into a usable, searchable database for people. And that's something that we really need targeted support on. And then the third thing that we do is we destigmatize. And how do we do that? We reach out, we speak on podcasts, we try and engage with media, but we also really work on our social media presence. So including useful and informative posts, as I said, mentioned before, articles and blogs, but then we also look at our website and the resources that we provide that allow for a level of understanding around estrangement that we didn't previously have. We really, really want for people to understand that this is often not a choice, it's the last resort. And then for those who have been estranged by family, it's not a choice at all. And this is something people really struggle. It's a living grief. They live with it. And so if we want to destigmatize it, we have to help everybody understand that this is not an ideal situation. It's not about encouraging estrangement. It's about supporting people who are living with it and through it. And I suppose we would love to have greater outreach. We have a membership of about 3,000 at the moment. We have great presence on social media, and we have an online support group which runs every month. That's something we'd like to expand. We have had grants in the past that have allowed us to have in-person support groups, but at the moment we just have one online. We're an international organisation, and we would love to have more access to our members across the world and provide the services that they need where they need it. And it would be brilliant to be able to fund a properly trained mental health facilitator to run those groups in more places and at more times.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you are like an international organization, America and here in the UK, and you have members everywhere. So, supporting you would be a great initiative from some corporate who has also international, kind of workforce.
Absolutely.
And this topic, is very much, important to in any country and people from different backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we certainly hope that from whatimpact.com you find new supporters, and through this podcast the awareness will grow. And I really thank you, Angel, for this interview, and Together Estranged charity, great work, and we hope that you match on What Impact with great donors and other supporters. All the best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.